It's over.
We need to act professional, like we know what we're doing.
'Cause we do.
Let's start the show.
Okay. Crazy man. You start it this time.
Me start it?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Strive Nation Podcast, the podcast where we talk about everything that's crazy in 2020. I'm joined with my constant co-host, Taylor Huff. How you doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great.
I'm excited about this episode.
Why is that?
I'm excited and nervous.
Well, because no one knows.
Yeah.
What don't they know?
That I am a conservative.
Oh no, the world is ending.
I know. My theater professors are going to unfriend me on Facebook after this.
Well, you can take tips from me because everyone's unfriended me on Facebook.
That's true. You have no friends.
That's so mean.
It's accurate, though.
Yeah, so today we are talking about our political awakening.
Yes, and how we came about it.
Right. But first, we have our upvotes and downvotes for this week. Let's get into it. You want to go first?
Yes, I'm so excited. My upvote is the iOS 14 update. So it's on Apple products. Basically, it lets you customize absolutely everything. So I have little widgets, I have different pictures for different themes, and then I made shortcuts for each of my apps so that they're pretty and aesthetically pleasing.
She had played around with my phone a little bit, did something, decided I didn't like it. I forced her to change it back because I'm like a super minimalist, I guess. Spent how many hours doing that? Whole day? 2 days? 3 days?
Honestly.
Still doing it?
No, I'm done now. I've been done for a while. It took me about a day.
Oh.
I just had to find a bunch of pictures that made sense. Because of course I had to go the extra mile. Spotify had to have some kind of music theme. Pandora needed some kind of music theme. So I went all out.
Very exciting.
Yes. Do you want to talk about your upvote?
Sure. So last week I went and took a trip to Vegas for a bachelor party. It was very fun. It was during COVID, so everyone's probably thinking, yeah, bachelor party in Vegas, not super fun because everything's shut down. You are not wrong. Everything is pretty much shut down. There are no day clubs, no nightclubs. The nightclubs are actually turned into something that they call social distancing lounges.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, which I don't understand because no one's social distancing in them.
Well, no.
But yeah, but all kids are allowed in them, and yeah. So, anyways, the nightlife is pretty much non-existent.
Wait, the kids are allowed in the social distancing?
Yeah.
clubs?
I mean, all the pool parties and the clubs are all turned into those, and kids are allowed. So
Ooh.
basically, the nightlife is non-existent.
Weird.
So what did we do? Yeah, everything that we had to do if we were gonna get strippers, we had to order them into the hotel. Yes, we did order strippers. It is a bachelor party. Don't hate me.
My parents listen to this podcast.
That's okay.
Okay.
They were young once, right?
That's
well,
true.
your mom. I can't see Eric.
No.
Like Eric at a strip club. Yeah.
No.
No.
My mom, yes.
Oh yeah.
She would order strippers.
She always talks about how she was crazy. She's like, "Oh, you don't need to know what I did when I was young." She doesn't want any of the kids knowing any of it.
We know it all.
Right. Yeah, Vegas was super fun. We drove really fast cars, like Lamborghinis. Some of my friends actually got a ride along on a Hellcat drifting around the racetrack. That was pretty cool. But yeah, it was great. Super, super fun. We made the best of it during COVID-19.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's your downvote?
My downvote. So I'm not excited. I was basically forced into it. This Sunday, I have to go to Memphis. I work at Floor & Decor, and I have to go to Memphis to help with inventory. The reason it's going to suck a lot, is because my boss is kind of creepy. He's kind of a creeper. He says a lot of creepy things to people, including women. But yeah, so I'm going with him. I got a carpool with him. Thank God I don't have to share a room because that would be even worse. But yeah, come back Monday. Ugh, no thanks. That is my downvote for sure. Not excited about that. What do you got for your downvote this week?
Mine are very, small compared to yours.
What do you mean? Oh, I guess I.
Yours
yeah,
is like upvote, went to Vegas, downvote, going to Memphis, creepy boss. Mine is just very basic fall girl things. I have been wanting to watch Harry Potter very, very badly. Because again, it's fall. It's spooky season. And I need Harry Potter in my life. And while Cory was in Vegas, I looked on every single streaming platform to find Harry Potter. And it's not on any of them. Unless you pay extra. Which I just find it really odd that it's not on any single one. So.
Well, not that you have to pay. How much do you have to pay?
Well, per movie, it's like $3.99. That adds up.
Yeah. Those streaming platforms got to make their buck during COVID somehow.
I know. Well, I mean, it's your credit card, so I guess I don't have to pay anything.
Yo, you are not charging my credit card with those movies.
$30 worth of Harry Potter.
And the thing is I have them on disc, but discs are kind of ancient.
Our Blu-ray machine thingy doesn't work. We tried.
Yeah, so no Harry Potter for you. Sorry about that.
It's fine. I will deal. I will suffer through. I'll just watch some Hocus Pocus.
Okay, very exciting.
Yeah.
Are we ready to talk about the coming out?
Like, yeah.
The
coming out.
Yeah, the coming out, the awakening.
I'm coming out. That sounds so weird. Yeah, we can talk about it. I'm gay. Just kidding. It's worse.
Okay, this is going super well.
I'm just kidding.
So that is upvotes, downvotes for this week. We're going to do those every single episode, but let's get into our topic for today, which is actually our political awakening. It's actually pretty exciting. This just happened. Taylor has a really interesting story that we can talk about.
Yeah, so basically how we decided to talk about this is I went back to Wisconsin for a weekend, and my mom doesn't know what my political beliefs are, and we were at the apple orchard, and my mom brings up, she's like, hey, are you guys all registered to vote? Because my sister just moved. It's my brother's first election. I moved, obviously. And she goes, yeah, you're all registered to vote. And I was like, oh, no, I have to register in Tennessee. And she's like, well, as long as you're voting the right way, I'm pretty sure is what she said. It was something like that. Kind of threw me back. I was like, did she just say that? And I kind of just outed myself and said, oh, you don't want me voting then. And the horror on her face that she learned that I was a conservative. So that's why we really want to talk about our political beliefs and how we came about them, because this is a newer thing. I haven't always been conservative. Cory hasn't always been conservative. We really started researching and learning and like developing our political beliefs only in like the past like 2 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was less that I haven't been a conservative and more of I wasn't educated on anything to really say. Like, so many people, it's a cop-out, but so many people go, I'm independent. Well, not really. When you say that, it's most of the time, it's usually contributing to the fact that you don't know much and you'd like to consider yourself in the middle because that's a balanced point of view, which is actually called a moderate, not an independent.
Yeah.
So the more you educate yourself, you find out that you're either left or right leaning. Mm-hmm. But basically that is how her mom found out. It's pretty crazy. Her mom's pretty left leaning, I would say.
Yeah, definitely left leaning.
Yeah, so when she found out that Taylor was indeed a conservative now, which she never used to be, that's the thing. She never used to be, so it was a huge surprise.
Yeah. One, I never really talk about politics. I feel like, you know, especially being raised in a house where, like, you have manners, like, there's things you don't talk about. Like, you don't talk about politics. You don't discuss wage. There's a lot of things you're not supposed to talk about.
Which I find, I actually don't like that. I don't like that people go, you're not supposed to talk politics at the dinner table. Which, to be honest, you should be able to talk these things. They're really important.
Yeah.
But most people can't compose themselves and have a civilized conversation about it. They can't have a mature conversation because they get too heated, which is why people say that.
Yeah,
But
it's
I feel
because it
like,
usually starts fights, or that's the stereotypical, like, you're going to Thanksgiving, like, people are going to argue.
right.
And it shouldn't be like that. You should be able to have an open conversation and discuss your ideas and discuss their ideas, and it should be, like, not a big deal.
Yeah, and understand that people have differing views.
And that's okay.
But they don't. People don't. So a lot of time, you know, you've been there where you got to bite your tongue when your family says something. You're like, oh, I can't deal with it. It's exploding inside of you. You want to get it out. You want to just berate them with everything that you think you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there a lot. In fact, there's this funny meme Taylor saw yesterday about I don't know if you guys seen it, with the dog with his mouth getting closed by this woman. And above it, the caption is, it says my wife. And then above the dog, it says me, 8 beers deep. And then it'll have like people on the other side of the table. And it'll be like,
them trusting the government.
Yeah. It's so funny.
I'll post it on our Instagram and on our Facebook when this episode comes out so people can see it.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't always think like this. And I think a huge part of that is that Cory got super interested in politics and learning about his belief system because he used to never vote.
Right. I didn't actually vote in the 2016 election. I was someone who was pretty much apolitical at that time. I thought I knew a bit about myself, enough to just say, hey, this is wrong, this is right, my own ethics, without really diving into anything. So I didn't want to vote for Trump because from the outset, I was like, Trump is this kind of dick who just says what he wants and doesn't care about anyone. I didn't really follow the racist train that people do now, but I definitely didn't like Hillary. Mm-hmm. It was like, like most people, you follow the train of you vote for the lesser of two evils, which I don't know if I really agree with that. It's more like you're voting for policy less than voting for characters, how I view it now.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about, or do you want to tell everyone how you discovered your political beliefs?
Well, I can actually, which I never thought this would happen, but it basically came from my sister. My sister was very apolitical early, but she's very Christian. At least now she is, now that she has a family. She's on kid number 4. So she's very Christian, and obviously abortion is a very controversial topic that a lot of people don't like to talk about, or if they do, they get super, super heated about it. Mm-hmm. And she sent me, I don't know why she sent me this, but she sent me Steven Crowder's Change My Mind on Abortion, where he talked to, I think it's a nurse or some woman, 45-minute video about abortion, and I just became fascinated in the subject material. It was crazy fascinating to me. The subject material was awesome, but more of how he articulated himself and how he rationalized his position on being pro-life versus what people say is pro-choice. That is what really enticed me. And then I started to dive into his videos. I started to dive into other people's videos. Like eventually I came across Ben Shapiro, As You Do, which I feel like is most people's avenue towards being political, is they'll get an inch in some way on YouTube or somewhere, or read something, and then once they get hooked, it's over, man.
Yeah.
It's over. So that's where I started. How I established most of my political views is really looking into data sets, figuring out what the truths behind these things are, and really started to listen to a lot of podcasts, having an open mind to everything, because at that point, I wasn't worried about not knowing something. It was more about the excitement of educating myself. Whereas a lot of people today, they're worried about challenging their own beliefs. Yeah. So that's where I started. And it's been like 3 years now of me really, really getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
But we noticed right away that after I started doing this, I had a really rough time talking to Taylor.
Yeah, he got really into all of this. And I was of the mindset that I thought Republicans were bad or conservatives were bad. They said mean things. They want to take away my rights as a woman. Like, I was really not about having conversations. And we would try to have a conversation. And what would happen is Cory's using all these statistics and showing me all this research. And I was just using how I felt about it. I was like, well, I don't feel that way. I feel like that's a mean thing to do. You should not do that to a person. So I don't agree with it. And we would get in this stalemate where we couldn't talk about it anymore because I would get so emotional and so worked up about it.
Yeah, what the kids say today is triggered.
Oh, yeah. I would get very triggered. I would get very emotional.
Yeah.
Be like, that's not nice. Like, just let the gay man have his wedding cake. I didn't understand the concept of what he was trying to tell me.
Right. And partly it's my fault because I'm a super, for anyone that knows me knows I'm very brash, I'm very crude, and I'm very blunt, and I lack tact. So I'm getting better. I'm getting a lot better at being nice.
You're a lot better now.
But yeah, I definitely lack tact. Probably felt like I was force feeding her these statistics and everything to prove a point.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt like. Like, we didn't know really how to discuss it with each other, and especially since you used to lack tact. You would just be like, no, this is like, look at this stat. This is what it is. And I couldn't wrap my head around it, like how he would try to explain things to me. It was like butting heads. Like, it would not get through to me.
Well, and part of it is because she even acknowledges now that she didn't have an open mind about it.
Oh,
like,
no.
I was trying to talk about it, and I was super passionate about it. That's the most frustrating thing. You have a significant other. You're super excited, and you want to explain all these things to, and have an open dialogue and communicate, because we're people that literally can have one topic and communicate for like 3 to 4 hours a night on it. Just something seemingly insignificant even.
Which is the reason we started a podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, what actually happened is I kept researching. It'd been like a month, 2 months of me just like researching, getting really into it, and it was just boiling up inside me. Like, I kind of just wanted to cry, which is what happened. I was like, I just got to talk to her about this because this is not healthy.
Oh,
for me,
yeah.
I mean, we went out to dinner. I don't even know what it was for. Maybe we just went out to dinner. I think we got like
we had a gift card to Olive Garden.
Right. Was it Olive Garden?
Yeah, it was Olive Garden because I was crying in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had, and
because we were talking about schools.
Right.
Yeah, and I got so worked up about these poor kids.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about that now.
Yeah, I mean, we were sitting at the table. Like, you don't understand, but I have to talk to you about these things, and I want to talk to you about these things, but I feel like, I don't even know what I said to you at the time, but I just started, like, breaking down and crying right in Olive Garden in front of everyone. And she's like, oh, babe. And I'm like, I don't know how to communicate this to you, that I want to talk to you about these things, but I feel like you don't want to hear me, you know? And I felt all bottled up. It was definitely not healthy.
Yeah, because, I mean, I definitely wasn't open-minded when we would have conversations.
Oh, gosh.
What? Stop it. I'm on my period.
Oh, jeez.
Not tearing up. I started crying during an episode of New Girl I've watched 10 times, so this is nothing. Yeah, I wasn't open-minded when you would talk about things. Instead of sitting there and listening to you and giving you a chance to explain your train of thought, instead I would just be thinking in my head, I don't agree with this. How can, like, argue, basically. Instead of taking the time to just sit and listen and then seeing you break down like that. I felt bad.
Oh, babe.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I felt bad about it because I think that's when I realized that it's something you're super passionate about, and I thought, you know...
You can do this. You can do this.
Oh my gosh.
Right in the middle of the podcast. Just in having a moment, guys. It'll be okay.
Why am I so emotional about this? We talk about this all the time.
Well, not all the time.
We've had this exact conversation before.
Yeah, I know. She wasn't going to take the time to educate herself on the topics, and she had no idea how to talk to me about it. She thought she knew what she was talking about. Yeah. And then when I would say something, she felt like she had to rebut, but she couldn't. Mm-hmm. And so eventually it came to a point where I had a really, really bad case of influenza A, where I literally thought I was going to die. Like, speaking about COVID now, like, I'll take COVID. I'll have COVID. Like, this is going to sound horrible, but I'll have COVID for like a month straight if I never have to have that influenza A again. I thought I was going to die. It was horrid.
You were really, really sick.
Like, I couldn't even move. I was just on the couch crying, like, all night.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
That's what it was. I felt pity for you. So I listened to one podcast.
Yeah. So she came home.
That's honestly what it is. That's so funny. Yeah, I felt bad for him. Okay. He's clearly, this is what he's passionate about. It's one of his, I mean, I called it like a hobby. Like, it'd be like if I couldn't talk about dance or something. You know, you can't talk to your significant other about your job, which is nuts. You should be able to talk to people about that. So yeah, I listened to a podcast and I was like, I'll listen to one. And he's like, if you listen to someone, it should be Dave Rubin. The reason why was because Dave Rubin is gay. He lives in LA with his husband, and he considers himself a classic liberal. So he was like, he's someone more in the middle. Like, he's not Ben Shapiro or like Steven Crowder. I was like, not a Steven Crowder fan. I was like, this guy's really mean.
She thought, yeah, she did not like him.
I was not a fan of him. So I decided to listen to Dave Rubin while I was opening the store one day. And I just picked a random episode of his. And he was interviewing Nadine Strausen, who's the former ACLU president. And they were talking about free speech and the importance of it. The way that Dave Rubin explained everything and how Nadine explained everything, it just made sense for me. How Cory would explain it, it wasn't getting through to me because it was very, like, aggressive. But Nadine, she would discuss it and be like, it's freedom of speech. I don't like that you're saying that. I think it's a really mean thing to say. But it's important that everyone is entitled to their own thoughts and are able to speak those thoughts, basically. Because if you start censoring people, where do you draw the line? Where does it stop?
Right. What's the boundary?
Where's the boundary? Because once you start censoring, you say, oh, you can't say this one thing. Well, this is kind of similar to that. So now you can't say this and this and this. And it adds up. And then all of a sudden you don't have freedom of speech anymore.
Right. I mean, essentially what she's saying is the only consistent line to draw is that all speech is free game.
Like, it's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing, because you can't take away some, because then where's the boundary? So you have to allow all. The only time that it gets murky is when you're infringing on someone else's rights, which is, you know, their freedom to be safe, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, like, you can't yell fire in a crowded building.
Right.
Like, that's because it's...
No
or slander.
right.
Yeah, that's affecting someone's livelihood.
Right.
Me saying that you're an asshole or a racist, that's a really mean thing to say, but I legally am allowed to say that.
No, and here's the thing. People are going to tell you mean things your whole life. You know,
Yeah,
at what
like, it's
point
gonna happen.
At what point are you going to let it affect you the way they intend? Because they're just being mean.
Yeah, so I listened to Dave Rubin. It clicked for me. Like, I don't know. I listened to it and I was like, this makes so much sense. I understand why Cory's so passionate. And I kind of just jumped down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I started listening to a ton of Dave Rubin. And I started listening to pretty much any lecture Jordan Peterson has ever done on free speech. Read his book about being accountable and socially responsible. I don't know. I just, like, started researching and listening and trying to listen to as many people as I possibly could, because I just wanted to keep hearing more and more information, because I've never been taught these things before. When I thought I was a Democrat, like, no one took the time to say, like, hey, this is why this law is important, or this is why this policy is the way it is. And how all these people were explaining it made a ton of sense. And I started slowly realizing that I felt the same as these people, because I was giving myself that chance to be open-minded and to listen to them and to really give them a chance and realize, like, oh, yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, it's funny because most people think they believe certain things, but when it comes down to it, we're all very, very similar in how we believe. We all want the betterment for humanity. We all believe that we're good people. We're all striving for better things. It's just the ways of going about it usually are a little bit different. And that's not a problem. It's good. Like, it's good that you have progressives, and it's good that you have conservatives.
Yeah, like, you have to have both.
You need both. Yeah, you
Our
definitely need both.
country does not work if you don't have both.
You wouldn't have all the awesome movements that we've had in the past.
Yeah, like, the civil rights movement would not happen if you didn't have both parties.
Yeah, but she came home. I was super sick on the couch, and she goes, babe. I listened to Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson today. Oh my god, I understand what you were saying. And I was like, great. And then I pass out.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened. But I was excited, but I was just not in the mood.
Yeah, you're sick.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened. Now we have long form discussions about these things all the time. We're very, very political. We're very, very philosophical down to the core. Yeah, it's actually really exciting. And for someone like me, I'm an ambivert, so everything that I like to talk about usually is in-depth conversations. I don't do well with the whole, the
small talk?
The small talk, yeah. I'm really, really bad with that stuff. I really want in-depth discussions about deep material.
Yeah.
That's what I get my jollies off for. So usually that's how our discussions nightly are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we were starting to have all these really long conversations about all of this and how it affected our relationship, not being able to talk about it. And we started noticing how it was affecting other relationships we saw in our lives. We saw our friends, how they would interact with their significant others. A friend of ours that's married, she's Democratic. The husband is clearly Republican. And they don't really talk about it. I mean, she would talk about it with me, but you could tell, like, they probably don't sit and have these same conversations that we have at home.
No, they can't. I mean, everyone who's listening is fully aware how this works. Usually if you have like one Republican, one Democrat in a family and then a relationship, they decide not to talk about it, period. It's off limits. They won't talk about it. And in my point of view, I think that's so unhealthy because these are like foundations for your belief system. How do you have a relationship where you can't talk about these things? It's extremely important. And I mean, that's where it goes back to what I was saying about people generally believe the same things. Everyone wants to be good people and do the right thing.
Yes.
That's the foundation, because technically everyone in America is born from Judeo-Christian values. So the idea of people thinking they can have these beliefs without that basis, that's not true at all. Yeah, but our friends, I don't know how they do it, honestly. I know they get in fights. I've seen it. I've seen our friends get in fights about it. And that is why they choose not to talk about it, because both parties aren't open-minded.
Yeah.
And how do you get them to be open-minded, right? Like, how do you get them to be open-minded? That's a question I always have.
You can't force
You
someone.
can't force someone to be open-minded.
Someone has to come to it on their own, saying,
Right.
I'm going to sit here and be willing to listen to you.
Yeah.
I expect the same. You're going to sit and listen to me, and then we can, like, discuss.
Right. And then
But it
have and rationalize ourselves as best as possible.
Yeah.
And come to something we both value is reason, like a reasoned statement about something.
Even if you don't agree with the entire thing, like, you guys don't have to have the exact same.
Right. I mean, it's good
beliefs.
to have a healthy discussion about it.
Yeah.
You get to know yourself in a way that you wouldn't have thought previously too.
Yeah, definitely.
You get to know a lot about yourself. It's fantastic. Yeah, I was binging everything super, super hardcore.
Yeah.
But
And
even
then-
your parents too.
Yeah, my mom and Eric, they definitely don't talk about their political views. It's kind of like the TV's on at CNN. Eric makes a really funny comment. Mom scoffs and says, "Ugh, Trump." And that's their political discussion, and they just agree, like, we're just not going to talk about it.
Oh, it's really funny.
Honestly, it's hilarious to watch.
You guys have been in that situation where someone says something political and then everyone looks around waiting to see who's the next person to fall. And I'm just choking down everything,
Yeah.
Sitting at the dinner table. Taylor's family is really big. We've discussed this before. All of them sitting at the dinner table had been like 10 people. One person says like a political statement about something, and then half the people in that room are Republican or conservative minded, I should say. That's better.
Yeah.
And then the other half are liberal minded, or at least everyone thinks they are. And then you got me just like literally fuming inside, wanting to say something, and Taylor squeezing my leg, being like, "Don't say anything, I swear to God."
Like, we're not having this conversation right now.
Oh, it's so fun. If I'm gonna say something, it has to be very, very tame, super tame.
Yes, like mild.
Yeah, like
watered down.
Yeah, it's like
version of it.
Because she knows how I am. Because if I had the choice to say something, it'd be like, "Rah, rah, 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 and this is this way, and this is this way."
You would just explode. I think you would just explode, and all that would come out of your mouth is word vomit of different statistics.
Right. Well, that's my problem.
Like, it would just come running through.
It's like I'm usually a super data-driven and a statistics-driven person. I like to figure out what the data sets are on these issues, because that gives me a pretty good idea of what to believe, because I think just because I feel a certain way doesn't make it true, which is what Taylor was saying earlier.
Yeah.
So I usually do like statistics dumps on people, and they're like, "Okay, I'm not listening to you anymore."
Which, I mean, doesn't come across the...
Yeah, it's definitely not the best way.
It's not like the best route to do.
Right.
We kind of noticed how it affected people's relationships with their significant others, and we also noticed how it affected us with our friends. I think Cory definitely got
100%.
the blunt end of that stick pretty quickly.
Yeah. My Facebook, they all unfollowed me. Because I'm a millennial, we talk about this, and because I went to college, most of my contacts on Facebook are all in that age range. All have gone to college. All have been indoctrinated into this liberal, this
like mindset,
liberal, like hive mind sort of mindset, and they're just not going to be open minded to someone like me who has these point of views.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them have completely excommunicated me. They won't talk. I mean, and then the hateful messages too is actually quite crazy.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, it is sad. But I've always been kind of this individual person, so it doesn't bother me. It's more important to me to stand up for what I believe versus appeasing people just to have that connection.
Yeah.
Like, I'll post something on Facebook now and I'll get a total of like 0 or like 2 likes. I don't even know how many people follow me, but it's definitely like nobody.
Not a lot. Well, because there's a negative stereotype to like what our beliefs are.
Right.
Like, people assume because you're conservative leaning that you're a racist or an asshole.
Right.
Like,
People,
you want to take away
see the
people's
worst.
rights. Yeah, they just assume the worst of you. And I'm like, if you had not known what my political beliefs are, would you say I was a racist? Like, no, absolutely not. But because all of a sudden I say this is what my political beliefs are and like these are the policies that I support, I'm not saying I support a policy against a certain race. That's racist. That's insane. There's also no policy stating that.
Right.
It's very frustrating that people just assume the worst of you.
Yeah, the American culture is going through a really weird transition phase right now, and a not for the better. I feel like we're trying our damnedest to hold on to these conservative values, these traditional values of what America is. And then you have all of these kids that are coming out of college having this liberal, over-progressive mindset and trying to change everything where no one can be... I mean, like, everyone's victimized for everything. You can't, call anyone names. You can't do any of this. And not that I'm saying calling people names is good, but there's no backbone and there's no open-mindedness to everything. You can't have a conservative discussion on campus anymore. It's completely gone.
That's what I think the biggest issue is. Everyone's titled their own belief system and their own opinions, but not being open-minded and not being able to hear other people out, and then also just assuming that the other side is awful.
Right.
Like, my friends who are Democrats, like, I don't care. I still think you're a nice person. I'm not just going to assume because you support something that you are bad. It's just such a weird thing. Like, you have to hide your political beliefs if you know that they don't follow everyone else's, which, I mean, what I've done.
Yeah, I mean, until this whole
literally
podcast,
right now.
If people ask her these things, she just either...
Like, I just, like, skate around it.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, oh, okay, uh-huh. Or, oh, I didn't really know that fact. And I'll just brush around it. I won't address the fact that I am a conservative or conservative-leaning because I'm scared of what they'll think of me. They'll think I'm a racist or a bad person or I don't care about people. And that's definitely not it at all.
It's definitely not true. The idea that Republicans don't care about people is so far from the truth. I honestly don't know how that idea even came forth.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
The way I look at it is that progressives are always concerned with pushing the envelope and creating change. The way Jordan Peterson talks about is creating hierarchies to make positive change, right? Mm-hmm. But there has to be a healthy balance there because conservatives are more tasked with maintaining hierarchies, which in this case would be our conservative values, which are important to everyone in America, not just conservatives. They're important to liberals as well, because otherwise you wouldn't care about things like hard work and the family center, having a two-parent household, all of these things. It's really weird how this is getting pushed on people, especially when it comes to the entertainment and the media.
Yeah, and I think that's where, like, echo chambers come in, and that's where people have a really hard time of breaking out of that mindset, is they surround themselves with media that just agrees with their current opinion. They're not pushing themselves, they're not challenging themselves to find different outlets. So you're a Democrat, like, you watch E! News or, like, all the award shows, they all have the same beliefs as you and they're all talking about the same things. Then you watch, mainstream news, or you get your news from Facebook when it's, like, Young Turks, or they used to have a bunch, I don't remember anymore. BuzzFeed.
I totally forgot about BuzzFeed, to be honest.
No, I wanted to say Buzzsprout. That is not the right.
What is that other one? That's
like Washington Post.
Is it that one?
Maybe.
Some of them are super crazy biased. I don't know. I mean, the way media is today, the media is super biased now, both ways. Mm-hmm. Super biased. If you want to have a balanced point of view on something, don't read articles and don't listen to the news. Go and do your own research on these topics at the data sources themselves, any.gov. Go into the studies and form a balanced opinion. Have an open mind about these things.
Yeah. And it goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
I'm not trashing on only Democrats. Like, there's some Republicans that only watch Fox News and that is it. Like, that also is not good. Everyone has to get alternative media sources, and you hear what they say and you listen to that, and then you go and find the facts and research it and say, okay, they said this. I can't just take it at face value, because how they're comparing that statistic might not be what the actual statistic is, which is what we found a lot of time. Go to the DOJ. Yeah. The census.
BOL, like all of these places that have these data sets that really give a pretty clear idea of what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're easy to find.
And it's fun, too. Like, honestly, I would do this for hours. Just go to these places, write down, and just catalog all of these sources together just to better myself, to educate myself. It feels good, and super freeing, too, to know that you're educating yourself on actual important topics than having...
Yeah. And to know where your information is coming from, too. So when you have an open-minded discussion with someone and they're like, well, where did you hear that? You're not saying like, oh, I heard it, like I saw it on Facebook. You're like, oh, no, I went on this specific government website and this is where I saw it. If you're interested, you should look it up, too.
Yeah, and some of this stuff is much the reason why I don't. I have a rough time with some social media these days, especially because of, obviously, the excommunication of people that used to like me. Which probably still would if I'm still the same person. I'm not this evil, overlord that's wanting to hurt everyone, which apparently they think
evil
that I am.
Overlord.
Yeah, I mean, these people think I'm racist from birth. You remember that one girl?
I know.
She sent me a message saying that all white people are racist from birth. If people find that normal, we have a serious problem.
Yeah. It's just crazy. That's a little bit about us. Yeah. I mean, it was going to come out sooner than later, and I really wanted to talk about this. Cory sent me a YouTube video.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
This girl's amazing. I'm assuming we'll share her video somewhere, but her name is Georgia H on YouTube. And she posted this 47-minute long video about why she left the Democratic Party. And she was a teacher, and then she became a registered nurse, and how she saw the policies affecting her workspace and how it's affecting her Black peers and how it's affecting her students. It was really eye-opening, and her talking about how it's a scary thing, and she always felt ashamed of being conservative. That's the whole reason, honestly, we made this podcast. Yeah. This was not supposed to be today's topic, but I was like, we have to do this, and we have to do it now. It feels good to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, and unlike us, she's very articulate.
Oh, she's extremely articulate. She's so well-spoken. She goes through her whole timeline. I really loved her. I hope she comes out with more content.
Yeah, Tay came home and she's like, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing tomorrow. Scrap what we had previously. Yeah. We're talking about politics. I don't even care anymore. This woman single-handedly empowered Taylor to just... on this episode, just I'm telling everyone I'm conservative leaning. I don't care what they think.
Yeah.
Literally days earlier, she was worried about some of her friends would think, her best friends.
Yeah, 4 days ago. Yeah. I was like, well, I don't really want to talk about it yet. We don't have to talk about politics. You know what? I'm sick of hiding who I am, and I'm sick of hiding my beliefs, and I'm not a bad person, and I shouldn't be ashamed of having these values of being hardworking and being independent and not saying I'm a victim of everything, and empowering myself to take responsibility for my life, and if I want something, I can go after it. That's crazy that I was scared to say that. Yeah. Saying that out loud, that's insane. I was scared to tell people that I'm self-reliant and I don't want to be a victim. What? That's nuts.
Right. Some of the ideologies that are taking place right now that people are getting indoctrinated with are absolutely insane.
It's insane.
And they don't even know it. That's the worst part. Y'all, I love the Matrix meme with it, but it's red pill and blue pill of people in the Matrix. I was just
about to say that.
Yeah, it's so, great movie, but that's exactly what's happening. people out there have no idea that they're indoctrinated into these specific beliefs. A complete inability to think freely at some point.
I mean, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Which is funny because when I was in high school, I kind of had these more like conservative values, the right to own a gun, and like that it's really important, have your own safety and be responsible, and that's not a bad thing. And then I went to college and I was in a poli-sci class and I wrote a paper about guns and gun laws. And the other theater majors, one of them was in that poli-sci class, and he was appalled by my views and would just call me a Republican. And I was like, but I'm not a Republican. I just think I should own a gun. And then from there, I was ashamed of that viewpoint. So I kept that viewpoint to myself, and then slowly just adopted all the beliefs that they all had. All of my professors were obviously Democrat or like left-leaning. All the other students around me were. I was a theater major. Yeah. And I just like slowly just believed everything I was being told and never stopped to think freely for myself.
Yeah.
Like I was finally red-pilled.
Right.
Which is like the Matrix. But a lot of people never get that opportunity.
No.
Which is scary.
No. I mean, it is scary. They have to come to it on their own, though. There's nothing that you can do. You can provide the information. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Because people one day are going to have to be open-minded. There's no way that you can just go around calling people racist without even knowing who they are.
Exactly.
You have to come to the realization that not everyone you look at are racist simply because they vote for Trump. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, and I just look at how much better would our society be if we were able to have open discussions with each other. Like, you and I have differing viewpoints, and we discuss it freely.
You mean like a democracy?
Well, we're in a democracy. It just doesn't feel like it
You're right.
sometimes.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
but
crazy.
I feel like we could just get so much solved if we would just, everyone, like, sit down in a circle, freaking kumbaya moment, and sit and listen to each other.
Well,
like, no one has to agree, but just listening to each other and acknowledging that maybe someone out there has an idea that could work.
Well, and think about how good you feel. Like, when you sit down with someone and you have these deep conversations about life, very important things, and you come to a consensus at the end where even if you don't have the same views, you can understand where each other's coming from.
Oh, yeah, it's very
Or at least
cathartic.
have an open mind. Do you know how cathartic and good that feels?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying when I say that. Oh, quick tidbit too. We will put Georgia H's YouTube video in the show notes below. So if you want to watch that, it's a great 47-minute video. I definitely encourage it. YouTube's been taking it down, but it's definitely a fantastic listen. One of the better listens in the last couple weeks that I've listened to. So yeah, that will be in there. A big shout out also to our personal favorites. Likely, if you're listening to this podcast, you're also probably favorites of them as well. Dave Rubin, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, even though he's MAA right now, unfortunately.
But even if you take the time to read his book, or even just listen to some of his shows, like anytime he's interviewed by someone, or there's a bunch of videos of him talking to different colleges. He's just a very articulate person, and I really like how he explains everything. I also really like Dan Crenshaw.
Oh, that guy's a beast.
Yeah, he's
that
amazing.
Guy's a beast.
He's such a badass. He's a congressman from Texas, and he has his own podcast.
Yeah.
And anytime he's interviewed, I really enjoy what he says and how he how he describes things.
Yeah.
He's very like thoughtful and like thinks it out. He also comes from a military background.
Yeah, dude's a Navy SEAL, got his eye blown out. He wears an eye patch.
Yeah, he's so cool. Yeah, I'm obsessed with him.
Yeah, he's pretty badass.
Yeah, and also Nicole Arbour. I know some people.
Oof. Yeah.
I know
some people are gonna have a rough time with that one.
People don't like her. Okay,
yeah,
some
I
things,
love Nicole too.
Things that she says can be blunt, and some things I'm like, ugh, that was kind of mean. But if you listen to her talk about not being a victim, I think that's what I find most beneficial from her, is like talking about not being a victim and taking responsibility into yourself. Like, you can change your life. Like, you don't have to just have this victim status your whole life.
Yeah, speaking of women empowerment, she is a beast. She has had a horrible history of physical illness, and just she talks about overcoming that and her path to basically being strong all the time. #GoTeam. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
She also has a great Instagram, so...
Yeah, she's also quite funny. She's a comedian, too.
She's a Canadian comedian, so she's really funny.
Yeah, she's great.
But yeah, definitely check those people out. And, like, just research on your own. You don't have to have the same beliefs as us. That's totally fine.
Right.
But listening to other different people, experiment. See what you find out there.
Yeah, and most importantly, go vote. Go vote.
Go register to vote. Even if you're not voting the same as us, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Everyone's voice should be heard.
Yeah, despite your views on mail-in ballots.
Oh my God. We are not talking about mail-in ballots. You vote however you think you should vote.
Right.
And the best form of it. Do you.
Right.
Speaking of voting.
The debate. The first one.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Since this is about 2020, we should probably talk about the debate.
Yeah, guys, did you watch that debate? Did you watch how horrible that was?
It was two children screaming at each other.
Yeah, I loved it. I enjoyed I thought it was the best thing ever. I mean, yes, it was irritating and annoying, and I kind of wanted to scrape my eyeballs out with a dull spoon, but I was laughing the entire time.
Yeah, that was pure comedy gold, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time we laughed for an hour and a half.
Yeah, that was great. And I know everyone else, like America, thought it was annoying, irritating, because you have these two individuals that are running for the most important position in the history of the world, and they can't seem to have a mature, civilized, composed conversation on stage.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
That's exactly what it is.
But I expected that, because if you follow this stuff like I do, you knew it was coming. You knew Donald Trump wouldn't be able to compose himself. He's a hothead. He says what's on his mind. He's brutally honest about everything he believes. Obviously, I enjoy that about him. That's why I think most people that support him enjoy about him. At a fault, man. At a fault.
I know. I just think of, like, what could have been. What would have happened if President Trump was, like, stately and was just quiet for 2 minutes at a time? That's all you had to do, man. 2 minutes at a time, and you would have just impressed people.
Yeah, all he had to do.
What he was saying was, okay, yeah, let's
get it, boy.
Bring out these facts. Let's bring out these stats. I'm, like, so surprised that you know these. Yes, I like this. But then he would interrupt. It was very frustrating.
Yeah, he showcased himself as a bully throughout most of it.
Yeah, he was definitely bully.
I mean, and not that it would have been hard for him anyways, because Joe Biden's kind of a pushover. He didn't have any facts, nothing. He was very, very submissive. But it just made Donald Trump look horrible.
Yeah. I mean, Biden definitely looked like the more, like, tolerable person in
100%.
that conversation.
Well, and the liberals are definitely going to take away, like, oh, Joe Biden is speaking to me. Because that's what most of it was, is Joe Biden didn't present any facts, like, literally no facts. And the few that he did were not right at all. They weren't consistent. They weren't right. He would contradict himself about every 20 seconds as well.
Yeah, he did a lot of contradicting himself.
Yeah, which at one point you say, I support my Green New Deal, and then literally 25, 30 seconds later, you say, I don't support the Green New Deal. Like, literally in the same sentence.
He said, no, I don't support the Green New Deal. I support what my plan is.
Right, except the thing you apparently don't understand, Mr. Biden, is that in your platform as running, you have Kamala as the co-writer, one of the co-writers of the Green New Deal, and it's right in your platform to support it. So I'm not sure exactly what you're getting at, but yeah, it would have been a lot better if Donald Trump was not interrupting him all the time, because you want to hear him speak. Like, you want to hear Biden speak.
Yes.
Because if he's going to mess up, he's going to mess up on his own accord. That's what everyone knows, right? Half the time he doesn't know whether he's on foot or horseback. So
that's true.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, he's not all there.
Right.
These are also the two oldest presidential candidates we've ever had.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, which is actually really funny if you think
two old white men.
Well, yeah, if you think about progressivism, and especially the left on pushing these equity and equality and what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say equal representation.
Yes.
Yeah, and having, you had all these candidates. You had Kamala Harris, which technically, I guess, is like, what, 1/16 black or something. I don't know. Or native, whatever everyone's saying.
She's mixed race, yeah.
But you had a gay man running. You had multiple women. You had Cory Booker, which is an actual black man. You had all of these different representations of lifestyles, of races, of backgrounds, and then you go ahead and you
pick the old white man.
You nominate the old white man again. So I mean, that tells you a lot about the narrative itself,
Yeah.
Yeah, you have two old white men basically trying to throw punches at one another, but are too old to stand up straight, so they just fall over as they do it.
Pretty much. Well, and then you have the moderator, which...
Oh, Chris Wallace. Yeah,
Chris Wallace did not do a good job. The first, 20 minutes, he was doing good. And then it became his sole mission to just tell Trump, you have to be quiet. You have to be quiet. You cannot keep interrupting. And then he just started almost debating Trump.
Yeah, which I don't have a problem with him telling Trump to be quiet. That's his job.
Because that's his job.
Well, and Trump was freaking interrupting nonstop. It's so irritating. It's bro, you have to let Biden speak. Yes. And he just wasn't. But Chris, at one point, was just for just debate for Joe Biden. Why don't you? The whole time, his questions were all gotchas. The whole time.
Yeah, he kept pushing President Trump. He would start answering the question. He'd be like, no. And he would keep interrupting him. So the moderator, stop the interrupting, was then interrupting.
Yeah.
And then trying to push him, trying to get him to say something he shouldn't be saying. But then he wouldn't do the same thing to Biden. Biden would start answering and kind of lose his train of thought. And then he'd just be like, okay, cool. Next question.
Yeah, it was very poorly moderated.
Yeah. I'm interested to see the next debate. There will hopefully be more debates.
But I would be surprised if 50% of America lasted 20 minutes into the debate without clicking off and looking at something else, because that was rough. It was painful. I mean, obviously, I was going to watch the whole thing. But
yeah, we're going to watch the thing regardless. And I think what's frustrating is the debates are supposed to be for people who don't know which way they're going to vote. It's supposed to be informative for them so that they can learn about each candidate and then make their own opinion. But neither candidate told you why you should vote for them. Because they were running over each other constantly and then just making fun of each other, calling someone a racist, bringing up someone else's son that has a drug addiction. It wasn't showing...
Calling each other clowns.
Yeah. You speak what you believe and then say, these are the facts, this is what I've done. And then speak, this is what I've done in the past, this is why I should be in the office. And then let people decide. But that didn't happen. And
speak on your policy, too. The problem, much of what Joe Biden would say is completely empty. He wouldn't tell anything about his plans. He'd just say he has a plan. But he won't say anything. He won't provide statistics. He won't provide a plan of action. Nothing. He would look in the camera, point at the American public, and go, how can you let this racist continue running? Well, that's not anything to work off of. Well, not only is it not true, Donald Trump is not a racist. For anyone that doesn't know, Donald Trump is not a racist. Okay? No. There's no evidence to it. Everything that you listen to in the media is completely taken out of context. Completely.
Oh, absolutely. If you listen to full clips, if you look at the full statements for things, you realize that all of it's misconstrued and it's cut. It's edited.
Right. Definitely.
Pieces are left on the floor, and those are really important pieces for you to get the whole picture.
Yeah, well, and journalism isn't journalism anymore. It's 100%
opinion pieces, opinion-based, and pushing. It's not, here are the facts from both sides, let you decide. It's, this is what I think, so I'm going to write it in a way to make you believe what I believe.
Right, yeah. But Trump looked absolutely horrible.
I know.
Trump looked real rough. I mean, and he would have done so well. Give your 2 minutes. Say your stuff, because he's good at speaking to the American public. He's good at it. He's very charismatic. Every time he has to give an address, especially for these COVID, he's been relatively good at being candid about everything he's saying. Yeah, obviously people take it out of context and they'll say he told them to inject himself with bleach and drown yourselves and everything like that. Never happened, just so you know. I mean, just watch the clips. Completely taken out of context. But yeah, Biden did not perform well either.
One was using facts, and then Biden was using feelings. He was trying to appeal to your feelings.
Right.
Appeal to painting this, do an example of something, but it wasn't really an example. It was him just trying to paint this really bad picture. So you'd be like, oh God, that's awful. We can't let that happen.
Well, and that's definitely the tactic. The Democratic Party, that's what they've done for years, is appeal to their... Going after emotion, 100%. That's where you get people. I mean, they have, 93% of the black vote because of that? Look at the history of voting. That's just how that's how they've been. And it works. That's why they continue to do it. It does work.
This is really random, but I forgot. The Hodge twins and Candace Owens.
Oh, about 2 more people to listen to?
Yeah, that was really random. I forgot to write them down.
That was totally random.
I know.
No,
Well,
you're
you were
good.
talking about the Black Vote, and then I was thinking of Candace Owens and Blexit that just came out. It's her book. You should read it.
Well, Blackout. Yeah, Blackout.
Blackout. Oh, she's one of the founders of Blexit.
There you go. Yeah. No, she's a beast too. But
Yeah.
Yeah, the presidential debate was entertaining as much as you wanted.
Drowned in
End
alcohol.
end your misery, seppuku yourself.
I'm
But-
hoping the next one's better. I'm optimistic.
What a lot of outlets are saying is that there's going to be more harsher, like, not penalties, that's not right, but more. It's going to be more guided. It's going to be more guidelines and restrictions on how you can speak.
They're reformatting
Yeah,
like,
they're
the debate
reformatting
structure.
the debate, and hopefully we get someone better than Chris Wallace. So yeah.
Yes. And the October 22nd debate is here in Nashville at Belmont University.
Yeah, we wanted to go,
But COVID.
but COVID and then couldn't get tickets,
And
etc.
that's extremely hard to try and get to regardless. And then also you add COVID on top of it. But it'll be exciting to watch it, especially being in our city.
We'd love for you all to interact with us on our social medias about your coming out experiences if you have any.
Yes. Yeah, and follow our Instagram. I post a lot of content over there. Yeah, I just want to take a minute and say thank you for listening. I know talking about politics and your belief systems, it's a really hard conversation.
Thanks so much for listening, guys.
Yes, we appreciate it.
We do. That is all we got for today. Be prepared to see more content, like I was talking about, our rant over segments as well as our life advice segments. We're going to
Truth
start doing
hurts.
those. Truth hurts.
Yes.
Very exciting.
I'm super pumped about it, but we can't do it until people submit their questions.
Yeah, definitely submit some questions. Send your DMs to our Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.
Mm-hmm. And let us know if you want to be anonymous. That is totally doable. We will not put your name on blast. If you want us to say your name, we can do that too.
If you want to be a part of something bigger, you gotta send us some stuff. It'll be great.
Yeah,
It'll
I'm
be
excited
great.
about it. Thanks so much for listening. Follow us on all socials at Strive Nation Pod, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Feel free to show your support and check out our Patreon. And remember, when the world is upside down, Strive Nation's right side up. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.